Hi everyone, this is Dune Awakening, and in this video I'm going to give you my brutally honest review of how the game actually runs on the Steam Deck. And let me tell you, let me just real quick. And let me tell you, this isn't going to be the usual it runs great type of video, because the truth is people aren't showing you how rough the experience really is on the Steam Deck, but it isn't all doom and gloom. There are definitely use cases for the Steam Deck and for you to play this game on it. So let's break it down. I'll talk about the good, the bad, and the downright broken. Now, Dune Awakening is a survival MMO set in the iconic universe of Frank Herbert's Dune. Most of the gameplay takes place on the planet Arrakis, and now I haven't seen the recent films. I only watched the 2000 miniseries, which was very political and a bit confusing for 10-year-old me. I don't consider myself a big Dune fan, but the game still managed to take over my life these past couple of days. Now in the game you gather materials, build a base, traverse the desert, avoid giant sandworms, and engage in both PvE and PvP. It's made in Unreal Engine 5, which sounds great, but on a handheld like the Steam Deck, it's a bit of a struggle. The game has been out for over a month, and while it has huge potential and tens of thousands of active players, it's clearly still a work in progress, especially when it comes to optimization. Now the core gameplay loop is genuinely addictive. There is a tutorial that pushes you forward without being overly restrictive. I couldn't put it down. This video was supposed to come out days ago, but I kept playing, and finally the servers went down for maintenance so that I can actually make the video. If I had to compare it, Dune Awakening is like a mix of Valheim, Rust, and Conan Exiles, which is also from the same developer, by the way. There is a satisfying progression, unlockable tech, and a grindy but rewarding loop. Combat is challenging but enjoyable when it actually works. Now, performance on the Steam Deck is where things fall apart for me. Out of the box, the game doesn't support the Steam Deck's 16:10 aspect ratio. The UI gets cut off and you get black bars on top and bottom unless you force the resolution to 1280x720p. That workaround does fill the screen, but it's a bit weird. Now, even on the lowest settings with upscaling, by the way, the game has XeSS, FSR, TSR, TAA, you name it, you're looking at 19 to 32 FPS just walking around. Hop into a vehicle and you dip into the low 20s. Now early on in the solo zones or the tutorial part of the game, which is the first hour, performance is okay. Sometimes even hitting 60 FPS with frame generation on. Yeah, the game does have frame generation, by the way. But as soon as you move into populated areas or see other players and bases, the frame rate tanks. There is sort of a trial mission where you're put into this dream state, which is an entirely different zone, and then drop below 20 FPS during the first trial mission, and at one point it dipped even under 10 FPS. Now there is an experimental low-end laptop preset that helps a bit, but the visuals become so pixelated it feels like a Nintendo 3DS. Even then, performance hovers around 33 to 36 FPS and still drops below 30 in busy areas. And opening the map, that alone tanks performance to 5-10 FPS for whatever reason. I'm not sure why the map is so demanding all of a sudden. But combat in this state is pretty miserable. There's constant FPS drops, input lag if you play with frame gen, sluggish controls, and PvP, just forget about it unless you want to lose all your items. Just don't do PvP in this game on the Steam Deck. Now there is a silver lining. If you go way out into the desert, far from lights, buildings, and other players, performance improves drastically. Now using XeSS and lowering resolution scale to 50 or 33%, I could hit 40 plus FPS without frame generation, and with frame generation I even got over 60 FPS even riding solo on a bike, and it felt genuinely pretty good. But as soon as you enter combat or a busy zone, it all falls apart again. Even if it's running at 30 FPS, the stuttering actually ruins it. Technically, it can hit 60, but it's definitely not sustainable, and I wouldn't call it playable. Now, why does the game actually perform so bad? Performance in Dune Awakening is extremely dependent on what's around you. More players, more bases, and more lights equals worse performance, and that's not just on the Steam Deck. Even high-end PCs struggle in crowded zones. On the Deck, the problem is amplified by limited GPU headroom. It's also built in Unreal Engine 5, which is still rough around the edges, notoriously difficult to optimize, and notoriously lacking any sort of documentation, so even a big studio developing this game will struggle to optimize it. Now the game does have full controller support, and this part frustrates me the most. The game is not controller friendly right now by any means. Menus are built for mouse and keyboard, and you're stuck using the right stick as a virtual mouse. It's slow, clunky, and painful. Now, the game on PC has a hotbar where you can put items that you frequently use, and it's usually 1 through 8. You just click 1, 4, 5, and whatever on your keyboard, and you will switch to that item. But on the Steam Deck, you have to hold Y. It opens up a radio menu, and you have to use the analog stick to select one of the items, and changing items mid-combat is a chore. It's not only a chore, it's gonna get you killed. In intense moments where you need to heal or swap weapons quickly, it becomes a real problem. And unless you plug in a keyboard and mouse, which, let's be real, defeats the purpose of playing on a handheld, you're stuck with subpar experience. There's a lot of inventory management, building, moving stuff around in this game, and while there are certainly places where you can still do it with a controller in a not so intense environment, like building your base or something like that, it will feel much better using a mouse. Now, to give the game some credit, I had no issues with overheating, anti-cheat, or disconnections. That's actually impressive for an online game on the Steam Deck. Last time I tested the open beta, I had major issues with the anti-cheat. I had to download it separately. I kept getting disconnected during my live stream, but that's all fixed now. Doesn't seem to be any issues with anti-cheat. I did run into a game-breaking bug, however. My first character got stuck with a false full inventory bug, and I couldn't progress. I tried everything, but I couldn't fix it. I filed a support ticket 3 days ago. Still haven't received a response. This is a bug that a lot of people are experiencing online right now, and it almost stopped me from making a video because you can't have a bug like that in an MMO. My character was only 3 or 4 hours old, but imagine you're playing for hundreds and hundreds of hours and you get this bug that can't be fixed. Yeah, you can't have that. Eventually, I made a new character and poured another 25 hours in. So yeah, there are bugs and even game-breaking ones. That's not specific to the Steam Deck, but I thought I'd just mention it. Now, battery life on the OLED Steam Deck is around 2.5 hours on the lowest settings. You might squeeze more with a 30 FPS cap in a dimmed screen, but I personally played this game in very long sessions, and that's not happening on the Steam Deck unless you're plugged in. Now, despite all of this, I think you can play Dune Awakening on the Steam Deck if you limit your expectations and if you have specific use cases. For example, base building, crafting, and solo exploring all work well enough. Inside your base, FPS is stable enough to decorate, upgrade, gather resources without much trouble. Even riding to the desert or climbing mountains alone can be genuinely pretty fun and a good experience on the deck. If you're just looking to grind, gather, and do light tasks while away from your main PC, the deck is a great companion device. But for the full MMO experience, combat, PvP, busy hubs, faction events, guild gatherings, you're going to need a more powerful machine. And if you have one, you can use the Steam Deck to just stream from it. Now, I want to be fair here. I followed this game since the character creator and Benchmark 2 came out months ago. Back then, it ran surprisingly well. Then they gave us a beta in May that didn't run well at all on the Steam Deck, and I streamed that live, or at least tried to. And since release, I've noticed a lot of YouTubers only showing the first 20 or 30 minutes of the game, usually the tutorial or solo zones, where performance is much better. I'm not saying they're being dishonest, but it's definitely an incomplete review. In fact, this is not a complete review either. It's probably 1/3 of what the game actually has to offer, so maybe even 20% of what the game has to offer. This is an MMO. Things scale fast, more systems, more players, more load. Unless you've put in dozens and hundreds of hours, you're not seeing the full picture. I'm incredibly grateful to the developers Funcom for providing me with a key, and despite all my complaints, I'm actually loving the game. I mostly play on my main PC now, but I do think the Steam Deck has a use case. For me, especially at night when I'm in bed, I take it and I do some light tasks like decorate my base or do some light grinding. It actually feels pretty good to have one device for smaller tasks and the main PC to go and do some heavy combat, kind of like you're living two different lives in an MMO. Now, a final verdict: if you're okay using the deck as a secondary device for solo gathering, building, or likes exploration, go for it. But if you want full-scale MMO content, Dune Awakening is just not playable enough on the Steam Deck right now. I hope Funcom keeps optimizing and I'll keep playing, but honestly, I don't think there's much they can do. Steam Deck is more than 3 years old now, and it's not gonna get any better. That's gonna be it for this video. If you guys found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like. Let me know if you've tried Dune Awakening for yourself, and if you did so on the Steam Deck, let me know what the experience was like for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.